Yeah, I think we were just kind of slow. And every time that we're slow, especially defensively, it just somehow affects our offense.
The Indiana Fever are struggling again. And this time, they fell short to the Washington Mystics without their superstar, Caitlin Clark, on the court. But here's the twist. The real fireworks came after the game, when Sophie Cunningham decided she was done sugarcoating and didn't hold back. From calling out toughness, to putting the spotlight on what's missing without Clark, Sophie lit up the conversation. And trust me, you're going to want to hear exactly what she said, because it's the kind of raw honesty the WNBA usually tries to keep behind closed doors. Let's break it all down. Now, you might think this was just another regular season game, but what happened afterward has everyone talking. Because Sophie Cunningham, one of the fiercest voices in the WNBA, didn't hold back. She called out the Fever's toughness, challenged the culture, and basically told the team, step up or get out of the way. The Fever versus the Mystics.
And helped lead the Fever to the WNBA Finals in her first year. We are underway here from Indianapolis.
On paper, Indiana still had a fighting chance. Aaliyah Boston was in the paint, Kelsey Mitchell was trying to get buckets, and the Fever had momentum early. But the Mystics came prepared. Shakira Austin dominated defensively. Ariel Atkins found her rhythm from mid-range. And Washington, a team many wrote off earlier this season, looked sharper, hungrier, and more physical. Without Caitlin Clark, the Fever just couldn't generate the same energy. The spacing was off, the pace slowed down, and the Mystics took full advantage, walking away with a win that exposed exactly how fragile Indiana looks when their rookie phenom isn't running the show. But the game itself wasn't what people were talking about afterward. No, it was Sophie Cunningham's unfiltered reaction. The first quarter was scrappy. Indiana showed flashes of energy. Aaliyah Boston was battling in the paint, Kelsey Mitchell knocked down a couple of jumpers, and for a moment, fans thought maybe the Fever could grind this one out.
A couple of things for Washington. They got to keep Kelsey Mitchell in front. I don't know if they have anybody with the speed and explosiveness to guard her on that end of the floor.
If you know Sophie Cunningham, you know she's built different. She's not one to bite her tongue, not one to play it safe with media answers like, we'll watch the film, or we'll get better next time. Nope, Sophie keeps it real. And after this loss, she let it rip. First, she acknowledged what everyone was already thinking. The Fever without Caitlin Clark? It's a completely different team. We can't just rely on one player to carry us. Caitlin changes the game with her vision, her pace, and her confidence. But when she's not there, we have to step up, and tonight we didn't. That wasn't a shot at Caitlin. That was a shot at everyone else. Now, if you've followed Sophie's career, you know she's not afraid to speak her mind. This is the same Sophie who's been called the WNBA's ultimate instigator, the one who mixes toughness with a sharp tongue. But Sophie didn't stop there. She doubled down on toughness or the lack of it. The Mystics played harder than us. That's the truth.
On their ball screen coverages right now.
Here's Mitchell on the handoff, bounce pass. Boston one bounce and a left-handed finish.
They wanted it more, they were more physical, and they dictated everything. That can't happen. If you're gonna wear a Fever jersey, you gotta bring that fight every single night, with or without Caitlin. That's the kind of statement that makes headlines. Not because it's disrespectful, but because it's brutally honest. Sophie was basically saying, if Clark's not here to carry the load, the rest of the roster can't shrink. And the way she said it, you could hear the frustration, the edge, the I'm not here to babysit energy that only veterans bring. The Mystics played harder than us. That's the truth. They were more physical, they set the tone, and we let them. If you're gonna wear a Fever jersey, you have to bring fight every single night. Doesn't matter who's on the floor.
No excuses.
Here's why this matters. The Fever are young. Aaliyah Boston, Nalissa Smith, Grace Berger, they've got talent, but they don't have years of experience under pressure.
Indiana's lost 3 of their last 4, Washington 5 of their last 6. Hole, corner 3. Here's Boston, the offensive rebound, flips inside to Howard who lays it in.
You go step up screen.
Caitlin Clark, despite being a rookie, already plays like a floor general. So when she's missing, Indiana doesn't just lose points and assists, they lose leadership. Sophie stepped into that vacuum, and she made it clear. If the Fever want to be taken seriously, they can't just wait for Clark to come back and save the day. This was Sophie's way of setting a standard. And honestly, it was needed. When you're this young, you need voices in the room who will hold everyone accountable. And that's exactly what Sophie Cunningham was doing. Think of it this way. Caitlin Clark is the star. Aaliyah Boston is the anchor. But Sophie? She's the enforcer. She's the one setting the emotional tone. The one demanding toughness. Of course, once her comments hit the media, the internet erupted. Fever fans loved it. Finally someone telling the truth. Sophie is the leader we need. Critics weren't as kind. She's throwing her teammates under the bus. Not a good look. And WNBA Twitter?
This is where she started her WNBA career, right here in Indiana. Mitchell, aggressive, bounces to Howard, splits the double team, finds its way to Boston.
Oh, they had a field day. Memes, hot takes, even side-by-side edits of the Fever stats with and without Caitlin Clark. The numbers don't lie. When Clark plays, Indiana's offense looks alive. Without her, it's flat. And Sophie basically said what the stats already prove. And here's where it gets interesting. Legacy sports outlets tried to spin Sophie's comments as tension in the locker room or calling out Caitlin's absence. But if you actually listen, that's not what she was saying. She wasn't blaming Clark. She was challenging the team. And that difference matters. Because if the Fever are going to climb out of the bottom tier, they'll need more than just Caitlin Clark draining logo threes. They'll need grit, toughness, and accountability. Sophie Cunningham gave them exactly that. Publicly. She wasn't pointing fingers at Clark. She was telling the rest of the roster, step up, stop waiting for Caitlin to bail you out, and play with pride.
Doesn't get sticky with Sydney Johnson's team.
Here's the rookie all-star Iriafin out to Enksler. Shot clock down to 2. Iriafin turns.
It's a subtle but crucial distinction. And it shows just how easy it is for media to miss the real point in favor of a juicier headline. Now let's zoom out. This moment isn't just about one post-game interview. It's about what happens when a team becomes too dependent on one star. Without Caitlin Clark, the Fever's attendance dipped, and national broadcasts didn't hit the same ratings. And most importantly, the team itself looked lost. Sophie's message was simple. We can't survive like this. And she's right. Because what happens if Clark goes down long-term? Or if she needs rest? Or if defenses start loading up on her? If Indiana doesn't find another gear, they'll keep losing. And Sophie knows it. Sophie knows this. And her comments weren't just about one bad night. They were a wake-up call. Indiana has to prove it can win even when Clark isn't there. Otherwise, they're not a team. They're just a one-woman show. This is also why fans love Sophie Cunningham. She's fearless. She's not afraid of being the villain. We've seen her mix it up with opponents.
Brings a lot of experience, albeit it is learning on the fly as Sims not afraid to let it fly and hits a 3, her first shot she's made with the feet.
Throw shade mid-game and clap back at critics online. That personality is rare in the WNBA, and it's exactly why her words hit harder than the typical. We'll learn from this press conference. Sophie brings drama. She brings honesty. And most of all, she brings accountability. Remember, this is the same player who once mocked opponents mid-game, who thrives on chirping back at fans, who embraces the role of agitator. So when she calls her own team out, that lands differently. That's not empty talk. That's someone who's proven she'll back it up on the court. So what's the big takeaway here? The Fever lost another game without Caitlin Clark. But what really mattered was what happened after. Sophie Cunningham put her foot down and demanded more. Not just from herself, but from the entire roster. It was raw. It was real. And it was exactly what Indiana needed to hear.
You can tell she wanted to get that first bucket out of the way after being held scoreless on Tuesday. And Lucy Olsen was...
Because here's the truth. If the Fever are ever going to win consistently, they can't just rely on one player. They need toughness. They need balance. They need grit. And thanks to Sophie Cunningham, they've now got a voice inside that locker room willing to call it out publicly. So what do you think? Was Sophie right to call out her team's toughness? Or did she cross the line by saying too much to the media? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear what you think about this Fever team without Caitlin Clark. Don't forget to hit that like button if you respect Sophie's honesty, and subscribe for more breakdowns of the biggest WNBA drama. Because trust me, this story isn't over yet.
For Washington, they hit under 6 per game. That is last in the league. And the Fever are a good three-point defensive team as Dantes launches and hits.